That movie sucked.
I kind of liked it.
Movie Night Crew Network.
Welcome to Of the Eldest Gods, where we discuss Rick Riordan's role as our godly parent.
I'm Taylor from Cabin 6.
And I'm Charlie from Cabin 13.
And this week we're joined by Haley from Cabin 6, our first guest ever.
Also Cabin 6, hello!
Woo!
Every guest we're gonna have on ever is probably in Cabin 6.
Woohoo!
Nerds!
It's like we all like to read books.
Yeah, no, it's like how on Restricted Section, everyone who comes on is a fucking Ravenclaw. Said the Ravenclaw.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
there's what, 2 Slytherins, both Marys are Slytherins, and then there's Christina.
Yeah, and pretty much everyone else is a Ravenclaw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what happens when your defining feature is liking books.
Yeah. Also, I'm on another podcast called The Restricted Section.
Yes, Haley is on our sister podcast, The Restricted Section. You can hear her dulcet tones every once in a while, most of the time, to be honest.
If you're not sick of my voice by the end of it, by the end of this episode, go on and check it out.
It's a Harry Potter podcast, you know.
Yeah.
Because we don't talk about Harry Potter on this show at all, ever.
No, never. We've never brought
Certainly
it up.
not.
It's like Christina has slowly started bringing more and more Percy Jackson stuff into the Restricted Section as our show has gone on.
Mm-hmm.
It's so fun.
It's cross-pollination.
And, yeah, it's it's our own pandemic. We're just coughing Percy Jackson on everyone. This is how I deal with trauma, Charles.
Yeah.
This is how I deal with trauma. It is officially Pride Month from where you are, listener, because it is not Pride Month yet. It is May. But
Don't break the
from
fourth wall!
The past. Hello from the past. What's the future like?
hopefully you're not all dead in a nuclear holocaust.
Better, worse, could go
Probably
either way.
the same, to be honest.
Yeah.
Oh, we also have a special announcement if Charlie isn't gonna do it.
Okay.
Before we get too far into our episode.
I told you I would need to be prompted because I'm gonna forget things.
You're doing great.
The entirety of adult ADHD.
Listen, this
embodied.
episode has way less structure than I'm used to. So I'm just like, what is happening? We have a new podcast on the network, and it might be my other podcast.
It might be.
It might be.
You
in
sure?
fact. Yes.
Have you checked?
Okay, let me go check right now. I'll be right back. Goodbye.
Go ask Carrie, quick.
Insert elevator music here. Should I start humming? Do 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 do.
One
Charlie, you
time-
said you were gonna check. You're not checking. Go check.
One time, I fully opened the door and slammed it to pretend like I walked out.
So yeah, that's right. Fandoms Gone Wrong is joining the network. Woo!
Woohoo!
So now we are up to all 3 of our shows joining the network. And next week we have one more exciting announcement about changes to the movie night crew.
Should we get into some gay-ass myths?
Lovely, yes.
Fuck yeah.
We decided that Pride should be all about gay-ass myths. So here we are.
Yeah.
Telling gay-ass myths.
Yeah.
And then next
Fun
week,
shit.
we're going to talk about gay-ass myth retellings.
I'm into that. Yeah.
With our dear friend Adele. So look out for that next week.
Oh, yay!
Our queen of fanfic.
Goddess. I said she's the goddess of fanfic.
Oh,
yeah.
is she the goddess?
That's her name on Discord now.
Dude, I don't function as a human.
I'm not human.
Okay, I'm excited to learn today because I decided to sort of take a hands off and be taught today.
I know some of the things that
am-
will be said because I know some queer myths.
Yeah.
Do you know some? I know the Norse will probably come up.
The Norse will indeed come
Yes,
up.
we all know Loki.
They just happen to be pretty gay.
Well, like, most of the Norse gods cross-dress at one point or another, at the very
fair.
least. So, like...
I mean, my favorite Norse myth is the one with Thor and Loki in the wedding. So.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good one.
Have you all seen the meme where it's like the groom's bride is a Thor? Yeah. You got it.
Nice,
You got it.
nice.
It gives me joy.
That's a good one.
So that is basically the most specific story I know, so I'm excited to hear what y'all are gonna talk about.
All right.
Let's go.
So, I don't know, where do we want to start? Should I just go? I've got notes.
I mean, go.
I will ask questions as you go
with
along.
what you got.
All right, fuck yeah. Oh no, I did homework.
Be your true Ravenclaw child of Athena self.
All right. You don't know what you're asking, but I will. So, just to start, I love mythology. I love world religions. I'm an editor, which means that I'm an aspiring writer. All editors want to be novelists. So one of my favorite things to do is come up with, world building stuff, like designing worlds. And like my favorite part of that is designing religions. Like, because in order to design a religion, you basically have to put yourself in the mindset of like a caveman from the world you've invented, trying to make sense of that world. And then like, what gods would that caveman assume exist? Like, some of them are going to be pretty much the same as like the starter packs of ancient gods that you get on Earth. And some of them are going to be specific to your own culture, but it's a lot of fun because you're kind of getting into human psychology. So this is where you start getting into queer shit.
My favorite phrase out of everything you just said was starter pack of gods.
Yeah,
Well,
I was
'cause
gonna say that.
I need that as a meme.
Oh no, like look into like the Proto-Indo-European religion, because like
no,
you
it
start
definitely makes sense.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
like,
I know what you're
it's
talking
kind of
about.
like it's kind of like Pokemon. Like you kind of start off with like the same set of like, all right, like we're a caveman or a Mesopotamian dirt farmer, and we're looking at the world and we're trying to, apply our human pattern recognition to it, and we're trying to understand all of this and where we fit into it. So, all right, we're going to look at natural phenomena. We're going to look at like major opposites. So we're going to look at like night and day. All right, those have got to be important. Those are big fucking deals. Earth and sky. Those have to be fucking important. And then once you've kind of figured out all of those major things, you start thinking of like, all right, well, where do those two things intersect? So, night and day, they intersect at dawn. So most ancient cultures had a specific god for the dawn, because the dawn was the intersection of night and day. Mountains are big fucking deals because they're the closest that Earth ever gets to the heavens. So that's why a lot of pantheons live on mountains. And then you start thinking from the perspective of your caveman, your Mesopotamian dirt farmer, you start thinking about gender. So your Mesopotamian dirt farmer is only working with what he can see in front of him. So he's not really up on like queer feminist theory.
Damn it.
He's only seeing like, all right, well, there's men and there's women. And when they come together in a particular way, that creates life. That's got to be fucking important. But then you've got people in every culture all over the world who don't quite fit into either of those two gender binaries. So you've got a lot of GNC shit all through every culture. It kind of takes different forms everywhere, but every culture, every pantheon has something to represent people who don't quite fit the gender binary, and also usually some kind of niche in society for those people. So we're talking about queer stuff, we're talking about queer myths. A lot of that stuff ends up being related to gender identity, because that's kind of the easiest thing to identify, because it's identity. It's how you're presenting yourself to the world. Sexuality is a little more difficult, because sexuality, like, sex is important from, like, a mythological and motif standpoint, because that's where you get fertility, that's where you get, like, the generation of life, but also sex is really fucking undignified. Like, no one has dignified sex. No one wants to talk about it.
The god of dignified sex. I want
There's no god of dignified sex.
That's probably Dionysus, though. Dionysus is the god of everything.
No, that's the thing. Dionysus is not the god of dignified sex. Dionysus is the god of not giving a fuck if sex is dignified or not. And that's why Dionysus rules.
That's fair.
Haley, I'm not sure you're aware of the lore of our pod, is that everything is Dionysus. Just everything leads back to him somehow.
Oh no, I was looking into it, and it's like, all right, so he's the god of wine, and also the harvest, and also fertility, and also this, and also that, and also this, and also that. Like, okay, so he's covering basically everything.
Oh, and he was also different forms of other gods.
Sometimes he's Zagreus.
It just
sometimes he's Phanes.
Yeah.
Sometimes he's Iacus.
So,
there's a lot of
a lot of the gender non-conforming gods also have, like, multiple aspects of, so, like, at various points in their stories, people have been like, well, I don't really like the idea of this male god dressing in lady clothes, so maybe they're a male and a female version of the same god.
That always makes me think of, like, with the Hindu pantheon. Like, for a really long time, I wasn't sure if there was set genders for the... And it's like, sometimes I hear, like, he, she...
I literally cannot follow the Hindu pantheon. I'm sure it makes sense somehow, but...
I've tried so hard.
Every single time I try to learn about any aspect of the Hindu pantheon, I come away with more questions than I came in with. Like, just, someone please explain to me where in, like, the cosmological time scale any of this is supposed to be happening, because some of it seems to be, like, eternal, some of it seems to be happening, like, concurrently with the real world, some of it seems to be ancient. I can't fucking tell. I don't understand. I do, like, if there is one religion in the world that just baffles me, it's Hinduism. I'm not throwing shade at all. Again, I am sure it makes sense if you've been raised in it. I don't understand. Why does everyone have 12 names?
It's also, like, the oldest living religion, so, like...
My roommate, freshman year of college, was Hindu, and I remember this, like, a conversation, and her mom was there, and she was like, you just gotta believe. And I guess that just sums up Hinduism. You just gotta believe and hope for the best.
Okay, but I'm trying to follow the thread of, like, this story, and, like, this dude has been 5 other dudes, and
you don't. That's what I learned.
No, you just need faith, trust, and pixie dust.
Okay,
you don't need
fair
anything
enough.
else.
That's fair.
It.
That is what I have been told. Just go with it.
All right.
That is essentially the phrase. Just go with it.
Okay. All right. That's kind of what I've been doing. So
yeah.
All right.
That's.
Yeah. So I'm not really gonna get too into any Hindu stuff here, just because, again, I don't understand it, and I can't speak intelligently about it, as we have just heard. But in terms of, like, if we're discussing queer myths, then, you know, we're talking about gender identity and we're talking about sexuality, and the gender identity stuff just comes up a lot more because it's a lot easier to objectively identify, whereas sexuality, people tend to not wanna talk about that directly outside of a pornographic context. Like, if you read your Greek myths, a lot of, like, even Zeus getting around, it's always described as, like, he came unto Leda as a swan, and she then birthed, like, there's no description of the actual act. He came unto so-and-so as a shower of gold.
Yes,
he came unto so-and-so as a bull.
We love that.
Love that one. So, like, and then, you know, you've got Ganymede, and who he like is the most beautiful of the mortals and a dude, and he kidnaps him in the form of an owl and makes him his eagle, and makes him his cupbearer. So then, like, even throughout, like, Greek and Roman history, people are like, are they fucking? I don't know.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
The answer is always yes. But we know that now,
it's
looking
Zeus.
back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So,
we
but,
know
like,
that because it's Zeus.
Right, exactly. But also you have, like, a lot of arguments to the contrary, because it's never expressly said, like, and then Zeus just absolutely fucking railed Ganymede directly in the ass, like, lovingly with lube. Like, it's... there's no scene of it. Like...
If the phrase lovingly with lube were to pop up in Greek myths, I would actually die. You would find me in the closet, dead.
What do you think they were using all that olive oil for? Come on.
Is that why we got the olive tree? We figured it out.
That's
Yes.
what.
We figured it out.
Even though Athena isn't out having sex, she was helping provide for all the people that are.
Yeah, no, Athena knows what's up.
Wow.
So...
I'm learning so much today.
So a lot of mythology, a lot of legendary figures are implied to have gay proclivities, but it's almost never, like, directly stated, like, they were romantically and sexually interested in this person who was of the same sex that they identified as. So it's kind of hard with, like, specifically dealing with sexuality. Plus, also, a lot of like pre-modern cultures were what we call homosocial. So, like, your male and female worlds just didn't really intersect that much, which meant that, like, you had to be married. Like, just, you kind of had to be. That was your retirement plan. Just, like, have as many kids as possible and hope they like you enough to, like, take care of you in your old age. But, like, you didn't have to like the person you were married to, because you didn't really have to talk to them. Most of your closest, like, emotional relationships were going to be with people of the same sex. Like, you go back as far as, like, the early 20th century, it's completely acceptable for men in Western society to hold hands, to kiss. And it's not necessarily a gay thing, it's just physical affection didn't necessarily equate to romantic or sexual interest, right? Yeah. So, like, that's kind of a modern idea, but then that kind of, you go back and read stuff or consume media or whatever from one of those time periods where it was more acceptable to be more openly affectionate with people of your same sex. To us, it looks very obviously gay, but from the paradigm of those people themselves, it might not necessarily. It might be, but it also might not. But it's really hard to, like, say definitively in a lot of cases, was this gay, was this not gay?
That's how I feel like I've been reading through the complete works of Sherlock Holmes, and, like, that always comes up as the Sherlock, John Watson, or were they gay for each other?
Right.
And is it, I mean, like, obviously, Arthur Conan Doyle could have, like, wanted that to be a thing, but also, I know enough about the lifestyle of the time, and it's like, they probably could have just, like, liked each other.
Even at the time, apparently, because, Sherlock Holmes was hugely popular when it was being written, to the point that when the character died, people, like, went into national mourning.
That is actually, I am currently reading The Return of Sherlock Holmes, when Conan Doyle was forced to bring him back from the dead.
He hated Sherlock.
It's awful. Like, he hated writing them, but, like, you gotta go where the money is.
Yep, poor dude. He also believed that fairies were real. That was a thing. But anyway, so, like, those are the kinds of things that kind of, like, specifically with sexuality make it a little fuzzy from a historical standpoint. Obviously, gay people have always existed, but in a lot of ancient cultures, like, since you were mostly hanging out with people of your same sex, it might have been, like, a situation like how a lot of people experiment in college. Like, they wouldn't necessarily have seen it as anything, transgressive. It would have just been like, sometimes you just jerk off with your bros. I don't know. Like, sometimes...
It happens.
Yeah. It's not gay. Plus,
it's
like,
gay
you've got...
it's a three-way.
Right, exactly. Plus, you've got attitudes at various points in history where it's like, if you're a man in a sexual relationship with another man, but you're the top, then it's not gay if you're the top. It's only gay if you're the bottom. Like, that was an attitude in ancient Rome. Like, so, again, it gets very, very muzzy when you're discussing sexuality, and it's really hard to say either way, but, like, you read the Iliad, Achilles and Patroclus, come on. That's...
Yep.
That's gay. It's gay as hell.
It's so fucking gay.
But what I'm getting at with all of that is that when you're looking at specifically gods and mythology, you're not going to see a whole lot of explicitly, like, homosexual stuff, but you're going to see a hell of a lot of, like, playing around with gender with gods. Because, again, people who don't quite match the gender binary are considered to be special in a lot of cultures. Like, okay, you're not...
Yeah.
I'm
like,
magical.
You're not matching one way or... Yeah, you are magical. Like, a lot of ancient priesthoods were somehow gender non-conforming. There would be, like, male priests who would dress in female clothing, or female priests who would dress in male clothing. It was a whole thing. And people who represent, like, that, like, straddling that line, sort of, are frequently associated with death and rebirth, because you bring together male and female energies to create life, so it makes sense that somebody who doesn't match either of those would somehow be associated with death and rebirth.
Again, Dionysus.
Death and rebirth are... mm-hmm. Death and rebirth are frequently associated with snakes because of the whole shedding thing, so
okay.
serpents tend to be involved. So you see a lot of really common themes. So I'm just gonna get into some specific examples here.
She's got a book, y'all. This is so exciting for me.
So
I spend all day teaching, so, like, to be taught by somebody else gives me joy.
All right. I'm just examining my notes. So So yeah, people who were in any sense gender nonconforming were typically seen as having some kind of innate spiritual powers. So, like, you go back as far as like ancient Mesopotamia and the priests of Ishtar. Ishtar was known even in even more early traditions as Inanna. She was the goddess of love, beauty, and sex, but she was also the goddess of war, justice, and political power, which is super dope.
Badass.
So she already is... Yeah, so she's already kind of challenging, what we would think of. Like, this is... Inanna was a influential figure in who eventually contributed aspects to, like, Aphrodite. But Aphrodite isn't a war goddess. Because, by the time you get to that point in history...
Everyone was in Sparta.
There you go. Well, yeah. So, there's a very famous story about Inanna that I think is really cool, where basically she just goes down into the underworld, which is run by her elder sister, Ereshkigal, and she's like, I want your shit. Basically, she like rolls up on her older sister, and her older sister is like, all right, I know exactly what you're up to. So there are 7 gates in the underworld, and every gate that Inanna goes through, she has to drop a piece of clothing. So by the time she gets to Ereshkigal, she's buck-ass nude, and then she gets killed.
It's like strip dying.
She comes... So she rolls in trying to conquer the underworld and dies for her trouble.
Don't we all?
Right. So, one of her servants goes to the gods to be like, hey, my boss died. I would like some help with this. And most of the gods are like, well, it kind of sounds like she fucking brought it on herself, trying to take over the underworld, so I don't really know if I can help you. But finally, the god Ea, who's the god of wisdom, is like, okay, all right, well, we actually kind of need her back. So he creates Asu-shu-namir, who is a sexless human being. and he sends Asu-shu-namir down into the underworld to go to Ereshkigal and basically ask for her to, like, ask for some of the waters of life so that he can revive Inanna. So Ereshkigal is like, by the way, it's never stated really why it's important for Asu-shu-namir to not have a gender in order for them to go down into the underworld, but again, frequently associated with death and rebirth. So
it's also sort of a blank slate. Like, they have no
right
defining, what we might consider a defining attribute in this, at least in our time.
Right.
They're blank. They're just
right.
them.
They have no personal, like, I guess, biological generative power. So maybe death can't. I don't know. Maybe death can't touch them. But basically, Ereshkigal is like, ugh, fine. Here's the water of life. That's right, Charlie. You can't die.
I was gonna say, I'm like, wait, I can't die. Okay, good to know.
So, ultimately this works. Ereshkigal allows Asu-shu-namir to take some of the water of life to revive Inanna, but Ereshkigal wants somebody to take Inanna's place in the underworld. So she sends demons to try to take one of Inanna's servants, but all of Inanna's servants mourned her properly while she was dead, so she keeps chasing the demons away, but finally the demons get to her husband Dumuzid, who did not mourn her. They find him sitting on her throne, surrounded by nubile virgins. He's just been chillin'. So Inanna's just like, all right, you know what? Fine. So Dumuzid gets dragged off to the underworld after this whole long dramatic chase where he keeps trying to hide out with his siblings. After a while, Inanna starts kind of feeling bad for him. His mom and his sister are both crying constantly, so she joins them in their lamenting. And finally, they strike a deal with Ereshkigal that his sister, Geshtinanna, will go down into the underworld to take his place for 6 months out of every year, which creates the cycle of the seasons.
Yeah.
Does that sound familiar at all? Right.
Yeah.
So, going forward, the priests of Inanna were called the Gala. Apparently, they could be either what we would consider, AFAB or DFAB, but as a rule, they were GNC as fuck. They were implied to, in a lot of writings, to have homosexual proclivities, but, like, their main engagement was in singing laments to Inanna in her, like, out of respect for her symbolic death. So again, association with death. The Gala, who were the priests of Inanna, are not to be confused with the Roman Galli, who were eunuch priests, who dressed in women's clothing, and they were devotees of the goddess Cybele, who was like a great mother goddess in, like, the Roman, like, mystery religions.
Yeah.
Who also shared a lot of attributes with Inanna. But the Galli generally used, like, female pronouns and everything. So that's another example from history. But they also practice divination. That's another thing that people who have, like, GNC tendencies in a lot of cultures are considered particularly adept at divination. Charlie, you can read the future.
I can, in fact. Didn't you
Yeah.
know?
So you can't die, and you can read the future. We're learning a whole lot
you
right
are.
now.
Yeah. Yeah. This is basically Charlie's Got Powers, the episode.
Charlie, can you please
I
name
should
that,
name
this
I
episode
should.
that?
I was thinking I should name it like we do the Percy Jackson ones, where it's like, cool. Yeah, I should do that. Gonna write that down.
We discover Charlie's got powers.
Yep. So, kind of going off of this whole thing with death, rebirth, and prophecy, if we're gonna stick, this is a Percy Jackson podcast, so let's talk some Greeks for a second. Let's talk about my favorite Greek myth of all time, Tiresias. There's a few versions of this story. Here's my favorite. Tiresias is a dude. He's walking through the woods. He sees a pair of snakes copulating on the ground, and he hits them with a stick and they die. This somehow pisses off a god. I'm not sure which one. I think
Just
I want
all
to
of
say
them.
I want to say Hera. I'm not sure. It doesn't really matter because whichever god this is turns him into a woman for his crime. So Tiresias goes back home, gets married, has kids, lives as a woman for like 8 years. One day, Tiresias is walking in the woods and sees a pair of snakes copulating, and depending on which version of the story, either leaves them the fuck alone this time or hits them with a stick again, and gets turned back into a man. Goes back home, gets married, has kids. So Zeus hears about all this and is like, at last, an answer to the age-old question. Tiresias, my bro, my dude, is sex better as a man or a woman? And Tiresias is like, I'm not gonna fucking lie to you, man. It's like 10 times better as a woman. It's the best. And Hera rolls up and strikes him blind for sharing the secret of femininity. And then he becomes a prophet because he can see the future now.
See, I know Tiresias only as the prophet.
Yeah!
I did not know all the backstory.
That's
to
the
Tiresias.
backstory.
I knew he was turned into a woman, and I was like, why is this your favorite? Like, why? I didn't know all of the... Yeah, I didn't know all of that.
Yep.
My life has been made now.
Yeah, so, you know, right there, once again, snakes, prophecy.
So, wait, what's the moral of this? If you see snakes copulating, hit them with the stick?
Only
don't.
if you're male. Only if you're male. Because apparently being
Well,
female
that's kind of
is
the
better
thing.
sex, so...
That's kind of the thing with a lot of ancient myths. Like, we grew up in a very, like, Christian-centric culture, so, like, we kind of see religion in a very specific way as, like, it's supposed to explain how the universe came to be, humans' place in the universe, and also, like, morality. Ancient religions kind of didn't see it that way. Like, morality was morality and, like, how humans sort of fit into the natural world and, like, the natural order was, like, the realm of philosophy, and myths were just, like, to explain shit. So, like, they're not really supposed to have a moral. Like, Zeus is not supposed to be a good king. Zeus is an asshole because he's acting like a king.
Yeah.
And kings are dicks.
Fair point.
So, like, nothing that Zeus is doing is supposed to be like, oh no, they thought that was totally fine. Like, no, he's a shitty person. The king is a shitty person. That's how this works. You're ruled by shitty people, and the gods are no different. What you should do if you see snakes fucking in the woods, I guess that's up to you. Take your chances? I don't know.
I don't...
I'm picturing the it's free real estate meme. Like, Tiresias seeing snakes in the woods, like, it's free sex change.
I just keep... It's more of just like a boop with the stick in my head every time he goes past. It's just like...
It's just, you know, do that.
Yeah,
Do
like,
it for you.
like,
Do it for
don't,
you.
Yeah, you don't, like, have insurance, you don't want to go through all that shit.
Just hit some snakes.
Yeah, just...
Some sexy
Bop
snakes.
some
Yeah, bop 'em.
snakes.
Yeah. Yeah. Just find snakes that are fucking and hit them with a stick.
Now
This-
I'm, like, curious about snake sex and how that works.
It looks weird. They coil around each other?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I don't know how that helps, with the actual act, but I
Yeah.
know that they coil around each other.
Because, do they have a cloaca, I would assume?
I think?
I'm not, like,
But
is
also,
that-
they lay eggs. I hate thinking about cloacas.
They're terrifying.
They're
yes.
they're very upsetting.
Yeah.
I also learned about them from a show that was run by Guillermo del Toro, which is the worst way to
Yeah,
learn
that's
about
not a place you want to
anything.
know. Yeah.
He's not going to explain it in a fun way. It was The Strain. That was where I learned it. So, yeah. But yeah, so those are some of the big examples. You've obviously got Dionysus, who had a lot of GNC shit in his background, pretty much in every version of the stories about him, of which there are quite a few. Like, Dionysus is supposed to have, like, been born and then died and then reborn, and there's, like, one version where he, was originally, like, a two-gendered being, and then their dick got cut off, and then that grew into a tree, and then a baby grew from the tree, and then the baby married the now only female original aspect, and that baby was Dionysus, and then he died, and then he was reborn by a human woman, who banged Zeus. I don't know. No one knows. No one understands how Dionysus works. He's the drunkest god, and it shows.
Love him so much. It's a drunk history Dionysus edition.
I would pay money to see that. But, you know, again,
Do you hear us, Comedy Central? We will pay you money for it.
But yeah, like, so when he had his second life and was born to a human woman, guess what Zeus appeared to that human woman as? A snake!
Snakes are gay.
Where's Tiresias? Is he gonna bop him? Tiresias is just full on, like, snake hunting forever now.
Just keep switching back and forth.
Yes, forever.
He's gonna try it with multiple people, you know? Who's to say it wasn't just bad sex?
I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. I don't know, I feel like if I'd learned that there's a way to just, like, change, like straight up change my sex, like, just by doing, like, one thing, I would do it every other week.
Yeah.
Like, just for fun.
Yeah, well, you know, that's a mood.
I would live a double life.
He was, like, literally one of those guys that had, like, two families, but, like, he gave birth to both in separate ways.
Yep.
I want to know what he thought about
misses
pregnancy.
His other family.
Yeah, what happened to his husband and children? They just have to accept she got eaten in the wild?
I guess.
No.
I mean, it's ancient Greece. That shit must have happened all the time.
All of them just need to, like, be poly and just live together in harmony. Mm-hmm. That's the solution.
I mean, that is the solution here. But yeah, I guess, like, whenever he started missing, like his husband and kids, he would just, like, go find more snakes to hit. One assumes.
Just the double life.
I'm going on a business. Yeah, no, I'm going on a business trip to Thebes, honey.
Oh my god.
Don't wait up. Yeah, you've got a lot of shit like this in mythology. Osiris is pretty GNC at various points. God, obviously, most of the Norse gods cross-dress at one point or another. Loki's a straight-up shapeshifter who birthed both the personification of the underworld and the great serpent that's going to destroy the universe, and also physically gave birth to a horse.
A horse with 8 legs.
That was a whole thing. With 8 legs, yeah. Well,
that's very important.
You know, he did his best. He didn't super consider how to actually make a horse, but you know, he did a pretty good job.
But that's just fucked up because that becomes Odin's horse, and Odin rides that horse.
I mean, it is a horse.
Still.
As far as we're aware, it's not like a super smart horse. It just is a horse.
It's a magic horse.
Birthed a horse. Yeah. But like the magic is in the legs.
I'm just like trying to figure out the physics of eight legs on a horse.
I mean, okay, so if we're once again thinking from the perspective of like an ancient Norse dirt farmer, I guess you would just assume that if the horse has twice as many legs, it would be twice as fast.
I'm pretty sure that Sleipnir
so that's what I'm
goes
thinking
fast.
is probably.
Well, that's just math.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure
obviously,
that's the same stories, but yeah.
It checks out. Thor definitely cross-dresses at one point. If you have not read the story of Thor getting married, holy shit, go check it out. It is absolutely hilarious. Loki, shocker, is involved in that one. Basically, Thor's hammer gets stolen by some frost giant, and instead of just, taking it back, Loki's idea is Thor's going to dress up like the most stacked bride in history, and marry said frost giant, get him drunk at the feast, and then steal the hammer back. Why Loki couldn't have dressed up like a woman? It just, maybe Thor just wanted to be pretty that day. You don't know.
Yeah, he's always so associated with all of his like manly shit. He just wanted a nice day to, be pretty.
I mean, also, like, the frost giant, just for what it's worth, didn't suspect a thing, and like specifically the goddess that Thor was dressed up as was the goddess of love and beauty, and this frost giant sees just like, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in a pretty veil and is like, that checks out. Guns for days? Absolutely. That's got to be the goddess of love and beauty, which kind of tells us what the Norse would have thought of, like, okay, well, I guess the goddess of love and beauty would just have, arms, which, I identify with that. I also have gazed upon a woman's arms and shoulders and felt things. So,
Buff women are hot.
Yeah, buff women are hot. It makes sense. I don't even play video games, and I'm still lusting after that giant vampire lady in the new Resident Evil game.
Oh, I forgot about that.
I'm pretty sure Odin cross-dresses a few times as well.
I believe so. Yeah.
Odin gives no fucks about anything, and also is heavily implied to be poly as hell, which is dope.
Yeah, I think part of the whole, like, Norse thing is so many of them did spend so much time on ships offshore, and they were mostly men, so it doesn't matter at that point.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't matter,
bros.
Yeah.
They come back, and it's just like, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Bros,
Just a couple of guys being dudes. Obviously there's, just as long as we're talking examples, like, there's so much shit in Hinduism, again, that I cannot follow, but every god has, like, 6 other aspects, 9, each of which has, like, 9 different names, and at least a few of which are the opposite sex from whatever the one you're initially talking about is. That's a whole thing. Even in a lot of, like, religious art, if you look at kind of, like, the figures, like, the way that they're presented, a lot of them are, like the way that their bodies are rendered is very androgynous. Like, you'll have very broad shoulders and very narrow hips, but also like a little curve in the waist.
Very, very hourglass.
Yeah.
And they always seem to have, like, smoother, like, skin. Like, not... Like, they might be muscular, but it might be a little more...
Yeah, it's always like a lithe and kind of dancerly figure, unless it's, like, specifically not supposed to look like that, like Ganesh.
Yeah, Ganesh.
I mean, you got an elephant for a head, at that point, no one's really looking at your body,
Then on top of that, how many arms does he have? Like, 4? So, like, you add the elephant head on top of the multiple arms, and you've lost everyone.
Yeah. Everyone's, like, blue. I simply cannot follow Hinduism. It's a beautiful religion, and
just very confusing.
And very, very confusing. I kind of have the same feeling about, like, a lot of, like, Chinese religion, because, like, again, we in the West, we have a very Christian-centric view of religion where, like, it's supposed to be the answer to where the universe came from, how we fit into it, and how to live a moral life. I have, like, the vaguest understanding of how it works in East Asia, but it seems to be, like, you've got big religions to explain, like, how the cosmos were set in motion, especially Buddhism. Buddhism really spread the farthest.
Just most of Eastern Asia. It's fine.
Yeah. Right, like, most of it, like, you've obviously got pockets of other things, but, like, Buddhism got the farthest. And then you've got, like, folk religion to explain, like, day-to-day natural phenomena and, like, how you live your life. And then you've got philosophies to explain how to, like, where you fit into that cosmic order. But then you've got, like, that's how you get things like Tu Shen, which, Charlie, I know that you had wanted to talk about. Tu Shen is a god actually explicitly of homosexuality, which makes him very unique in that sense.
Yeah, that's
but
why
the whole
I thought
story,
it was cool.
Yeah. So the whole thing with Tu Shen is that he was originally a human, and he fell in love with a imperial magistrate or official or something, and got caught peeping on this guy in the bath and was put to death over it. And he gets to heaven. I love the Chinese afterlife because it's just a bureaucracy. There's, like, upward mobility. It's really funny. So Tu Shen gets to heaven and kind of pleads his case to the heavenly officials, and they're like, well, you know, your crime was one of love, so we're gonna give you this one. And basically a dude in Tu Shen's village has this dream where Tu Shen appears to him as a rabbit and is basically like, I am now the god of men who love men. And they, like, build a temple to him. So now, like, rabbits are heavily associated in China with homosexuality and also the moon, because, like, we have the man in the moon. East Asia has the rabbit in the moon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Which
like,
is so interesting to me because we always, like, associate bunnies with copulating.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so we have such a very, like, narrow male and female make many, many babies. So the fact that, like, rabbits are associated with homosexuality is very interesting.
Right. But, like, that whole thing started out as, like, a local tradition, and then it kind of struck a chord with a lot of people and then spread. And then you've got, you know, even today in China, since, like, the government, it's not, like, expressly not okay, but, like, it's not okay to be gay. So a lot of Chinese dramas, if they're trying to imply that two characters have a gay thing going on, they'll just throw as many rabbits into the show as they possibly can, just to fuck with the censors, to be like, does this make you angry? Do these little bunny rabbits make you angry? Are the rabbits too gay, asshole? Tell us to have fewer rabbits. Go on, I dare you, tell us.
They're gonna have to build it in their code. Only 2 rabbits.
That's
per
beautiful.
show. But then they'll, like, make them humongous rabbits, just, like, in the background, just at all times.
They're never explained or addressed, they're just there.
That's
I'm not going to address the rabbit in the room.
Let's address the gay rabbit in the room. Oh, man. And, like, especially with, like, the polytheistic and pantheistic religions, like, you've just got a lot of minor deities. Like, you get to Japan, you've got Ugajin, who's harvest and fertility, Kami, which is, like, a kind of god, who is both male and female. Snake body.
Naturally.
Yeah.
Wait, Charlie, do you think Echidna
Oh my goodness!
might be associated with
Wait,
this?
are you trying to say that Echidna is gay?
I mean, she has a weird-ass snake body. I'm just saying.
I'm gonna have to think about this one. Actually, I don't want to think about Echidna. I really don't like to.
Yeah, no. No, the statue is seared into my head forever. Don't look at that.
She's just got, like, her
has a
her
cloaca.
snake legs out and just...
See, we have that same question. Like, it is... How does she do anything?
She's the mother of monsters in Greek stuff. So, like, I assume she does things.
I feel like most monsters would come from a cloaca.
Yeah, well, you know. That's what we'll go with. Yeah. Echidna officially has a cloaca.
I hate cloacas. I hate cloacas! It's the most upsetting piece of anatomy of any living thing.
And so many of them have it.
So many! We're in the minority here. Ugh. Ah!
Think of all those chickens.
It's just gross. It's just gross. It's not natural!
I mean, it is natural.
That's the problem, Charlie.
Exactly.
No, God hates cloacas. That's my official position. I'm making a religion, and the whole thing is just God hates cloacas.
Nothing else is built around it, just that. This isn't an anti-cloaca realm.
This is an anti-cloaca podcast. We're taking a stand.
I can't breathe.
Well, those are most of the specific examples that I have off the top of my head. Were there any others that you guys wanted to cover?
I'm just waiting for Charlie to be less dead. I know, Adele and I will probably talk more about Achilles next week.
Please do.
Yeah. My goal is to finish reading Song of Achilles by then, but, yeah, no, it's very interesting, like you said, about how our views of gender and, like, sexuality are so different even in the past 100 years. Mm-hmm. And people are like, well, back in the olden days. I'm like, back in the olden days, nobody gave a shit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the beauty of it, is literally just nobody gave a shit. And I was trying to explain that to my kids the one day when we were talking about Sparta, obviously, because you gotta mention that when you talk about Sparta.
Oh, yeah.
And, I was like, we just think about it differently. It's not a problem for a lot of history.
Yeah.
It's like, as long as you're not being explicit about it, as long as you're not going fucking in the street, like,
yeah.
Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah, lovingly fucking with lube.
The snakes. What if the snakes came up and bopped you with the stick? That's the real question.
That's why snakes don't have arms. If snakes had
the
arms, they'd be
real
going around
reason.
hitting human.
A snake bopped a couple who's having sex with a stick. And now no snake has arms. Wow. Yep. We've solved the issue. Was that what happened in the Garden of Eden? Like,
Confirmed.
Whenever anyone talks about the snakes with arms thing, I'm just gonna think about that Steven Universe thing, and that's it. That's all I'm gonna think about for the rest of time. It's when he just cries because snakes don't have arms. Just...
Well, now we know. If they did, they'd be a menace. A menace unto society.
they would just know.
Constantly offending, avenging those two innocent snakes that got whacked by Tiresias. That bastard.
I like to think that every time they did that, they would switch reptilian form. They don't have to change sex. They're like an iguana one day, and then the next, a gecko. But they're always out bopping people. And then they can find out which animal has the best cloaca.
No.
None of them. There's no best cloaca. They're all the worst.
Okay, you have to admit, it is a fun word to say. For
It's
a
just
very
not a-
terrible thing.
It's just not a fun concept to think about. Cloacha, I think? I could be super wrong about that.
I think you're right. Just Google it. Oh no, it's no.
Oh, there's no H. Okay. I thought there was. I thought there was I thought there was like a hard CH in there. There's pictures. No.
Oh shit.
That's why I was like, "You're really gonna look that up?"
I have to take one for the team here. I'm older than both of you. I grew up in the age of 2 Girls, 1 Cup and Goatsy. I've seen things.
Fair.
I've seen things, okay? My mind is ruined.
So cloaca is spelled like it sounds.
Yep.
Cloaca.
Yep. So listeners, you don't have to look it up.
Don't
do it, please.
They'll be the same people who, when we told them not to look up Pan's Wikipedia, to go look up Pan.
Haley, don't look it up.
Now they're gonna go look up.
I did already.
Oh, no.
You said not to look it up, and then I was like, well, I have to know.
Wasn't it great?
Yeah.
Didn't you love it?
Yeah. It's fine. I did.
In your head now.
Yeah. I will say, I took a lot of art history classes in college, and like, the thing with art history teachers is that they tend to be as queer as their students. So they're pretty open about how dirty the past was. So I had a college professor who told us about the Dick Room in Rome.
Oh shit.
So when they found Pompeii in like the Victorian era, you know, there had been this there had been a lot of revisionist history in the intervening years, and
just a little.
Yeah, just a little. So people had kind of forgotten that Rome was, what's the word I want? Disgusting. Just debauched. So they find Pompeii, which was Rome's Vegas. A lot of people do not realize that Pompeii was like a pleasure city. It was like a lot of rich people had like villas around there, and they would like vacation there, and it was just absolute like of an already pretty debauched culture. Pompeii was super gross. They had.
I wonder what their Saturnalia was like. I don't like to think about Saturnalia much, but like.
They had, like, little dicks just, like, in the molding of city streets to point you to the nearest brothel. So, you know, they start excavating Pompeii in the Victorian era, like, specifically the Victorian era, when everyone's, you know, very buttoned up and low-key repressed, but also high-key extremely horny. And they start finding all these dicks, like tintinabulas. Tintinabulas are hilarious. They're like wind chimes that are just like penises with bells hanging from them.
God bless. I need to share this with my stepmom. I'm sure she would love one.
They're great. So they just locked like the Vatican was like, no one can know. So they just locked it all in a room, and you have to like go through all this red tape to like get access to the dick room. And my teacher did. And she told us all about it. All about all of the many just heaps of tintinabulas that she saw.
One of my best friends she's working on her master's in art history right now. I should ask her if one day her goal is to get to the dick room. Because she's in art history, we play a game Folly or Phallus with every piece of art we see.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because it's all either phallic in nature or the folly of mankind. So...
What about when it's both?
Yeah, we just, like, will randomly put shit in our group chat and be like, Folly or Phallus. So, that's a fun game you can play with your friends, given to you by an art history major.
Apparently there's also a whole thing in the Vatican, this is just a fun fact, I don't know if it's true or if my teacher was screwing with us, but apparently you can tell how there's 2 dick rooms. There's the Pompeii dick room, and then there's this dick room. Apparently you can tell at any given time how liberal or conservative leaning the Pope is by how many dicks are in the Vatican, because they've got a room with like marble penises and marble fig leaves. And all of the statues around the Vatican, they'll swap them out. So, like, if you go in the room and there's, like, more fig leaves than dicks, that means that it's a pretty liberal pope. But if there's more dicks in the room than fig leaves, that means that all of the statues out there are wearing fig leaves and the Pope doesn't want to look at dicks.
That makes...
I don't know if that's true, but that's what my art history teacher told us.
I mean, I could see it.
I can totally see it.
Considering, like, what happened with, like, the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel and stuff, and...
Oh, yeah.
Historically has been covered up in the past and then redone, so, I mean, it would not surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
Why is society obsessed with dicks?
They're gross. I don't understand.
Don't get it.
I don't know, man. They're just there.
They just sort of flop there.
Yeah.
Like,
they never quite look like they're supposed to be attached, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you add balls into it, and it just.
I mean, like, I'm not saying that any genitalia looks innately appealing.
Oh yeah,
like,
no. Boobs are it. Boobs,
boobs are nice to look at, but like, you know, your average vulva kind of looks like a sea urchin. Like there's everything's kind of tucked away with like hospital corners.
See, that's the nice thing. Like everything's just sort of wrapped together. You don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, dicks just look inconvenient. They look like they'd be inconvenient to have.
I've asked my boyfriend before, like, does it bother you in your pants, like when you're just sitting there?
I did.
Do you know it's there?
How do they ride bikes?
Like, you conscious of it?
How do they ride bikes?
They
have to put them somewhere.
One of the most fucked up things I ever learned in college was not something I learned in a class. It was something I learned from some friends, because, like, I had a pretty, like, evenly distributed friend group of, like, between girls and guys, and we would kind of talk about, like, problems that were specific to our bodies, you know, and kind of compare notes. And the dudes told us once about, apparently, their testicles can get like switched, like inside the scrotum, like they can get tangled, and it hurts really bad, and they have to like try to fix it. Yeah, like the wrong ball ends up in the wrong sack somehow, apparently.
How?
I don't know.
Joseph answered my question. But in the best kind of way.
So, any other notes about mythology? Oh yeah, they're interesting.
Because we never mentioned our favorite girl, Artemis. Or, like...
Yeah,
Okay, your favorite girl.
I mean, most, like...
I give zero shits about Artemis, to be honest.
Artemis is good. We love a strong female who, like, runs in the woods with other strong females.
She is not problematic, and it's lovely.
Artemis...
That's very hard to find in this pantheon.
I mean, Artemis really does seem to just be doing her own thing, and I respect it really hard. But yeah, that is something that's really interesting in a lot of ancient religions. There is very frequently at least one, usually a few, war goddesses, and they're usually considered like maidens or virgins. Not always, but usually. But they kind of fall into this whole, you know, gender non-conforming thing of like, they're like, since they are opting out of sex and or marriage, this somehow contributes to them using their just placing their focuses on other areas. That was actually a thing in a lot, like at various points in a lot of various cultures, was like generative power. There was this whole theory, especially in the Middle Ages, this comes up in Europe. There, like, generative power was basically this theory that all humans have like a set amount of like just personal energy that they can put into the world, and creating children takes up a lot of that, especially for like a woman, if she's like carrying a whole ass child and like gestating it and everything. So women shouldn't learn to read or anything because learning also takes a lot of generative power and you need to save that for baby making, was the theory.
I mean, you could argue some people still
Some
take
people
that there.
definitely still think that way. Probably aren't aware that they think that way, but a lot of people definitely still think that way. But yeah, it is a literally medieval way of seeing the world, but it kind of, you know, if you're thinking of it from the perspective of, once again, a Mesopotamian dirt farmer who's kind of just operating with what he can see and drawing conclusions from there, you can see where people would get that theory. It's not great, but it explains a few things.
It happens.
Yeah.
That gave me so much joy.
But yeah.
I do really appreciate your like taking it from a caveman or just like your average farmer to like look at it, because I don't know, I've never really thought about where something like that would sort of come from.
Well, because like you're just kind of like following. It's at a certain point it becomes psychology. Like you're just following how people make their associations. Like every culture, no culture associates the color red with water. The color red is always associated with blood or fire. Because we all see red and we're like, okay, that's all right. That makes sense. That looks like that other thing, and okay, so those two things must be somehow connected. So like humans, we have a really, like, the thing that really sets us apart is pattern recognition, and sometimes we're really, really good at it, and we can draw very accurate conclusions, and sometimes, holy shit, are we wrong, like generative power.
Yeah, because because I teach history, I'm always so more, like, looking back and, like, from the big picture down.
Mm-hmm.
So my brain just very rarely takes it from, like, that small, like, starting point up.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's very interesting to flip it that way, because it's just...
Yeah.
Psychology and sociology and anthropology, like, the social sciences are so wonderful and should be applied more to more things, but
Right.
like, no, it's that is a neat way to look at it.
Yeah, and it also kind of plays into questions of like sexuality and how common or uncommon homosexuality was in different cultures at different points, because sometimes it might not be talked about because it, you know, wasn't okay from that culture's perspective, but sometimes it might not be talked about it because it was ubiquitous. Like
it was just a thing, like...
Yeah, like, there apparently, for a lot of historians, especially, like, social historians, the most infuriating things are the ubiquitous things that no one bothered to talk about. Like, my favorite example is, like, you know, you think about recipes that we write. If you're baking cookies, it's going to be, like, 2 eggs. All right, so you use 2 eggs. Fast forward 500 years. Somebody finds your grandma's cookie recipe that you wrote down and left in your house.
Which kind of egg?
Right. They're gonna be like, what kind of egg? Duck egg? Ostrich egg? I don't know. So, like, that's the kind of shit that drives people crazy, and that's why historians love when they find just, like, the diaries of random people that explain just the stupid minutia of everyday life, because they're like, okay, thank God now I know this thing.
Yeah, I make my kids read, like, not famous shit, because it's hilarious. They're like, but why? And I'm like, wait until you find out.
People were exactly as boring and exactly as weird back in the past as they are today.
That's basically the moral of my class.
Mm-hmm.
It just is.
Yep. People have always been people. Go back to Pompeii, read the,
Yes!
God, the graffiti.
Oh,
Yes!
God, no.
The graffiti of Pompeii is the funniest shit I've ever read in my whole life. These are people who died in a fiery cataclysm, and in the weeks before, they were writing shit like, here on April 27th, I made bread. Flavius, I banged your sister behind this building.
When I move, I'll have to leave, like, some really random...
It must be in the
statement
closet. You
somewhere
gotta
in the
do it in the
apartment.
closet.
Yes, do it.
Just waiting. In the closet here, I'll find a spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it's also the easiest place to hide something, so...
Yeah. So you don't lose your, so you don't lose the security deposit. They don't find the cryptic message written, like, upside down on a shelf.
Yeah, I'll tape it to the underside here where nobody's ever gonna look.
Or,
But
like,
then someday,
rip up a
will.
Rip up a bit of carpet and then leave a message under it so that when they go and change the carpet someday, they'll find just something weird and cryptic. Like a creepy photograph or something.
Sounds like this is really sounding something like my stepmom would do. I've spent too much time around her. We're talking about a woman who, like, had the creepiest ass doll collection I have ever seen. And it was so creepy we kept it in a storage shed, and my dad finally convinced her to get rid of it because we didn't want to look at it ever again. I adore her with my entire heart. I
mean, I can only sympathize. I think there was a recent Movie Night Crew episode where I talked about this, but I used to work in a used bookstore, and the weirdest, like, people will ask me, what's the weirdest book you ever got? The weirdest book we ever saw was called The Doll. It was about, it was like a coffee table book. It was a big sucker, bound in red velvet with gold lettering, and it was about people with antique doll collections. So it just had these huge detailed photos of old china dolls in various states of decay, just like really blown up, like, black and white photos, and like their provenance and like the explanation of where these people got them. And like you can just tell from the way it's written that none of these people knew that their hobby was the creepiest hobby in the entire world. Like, they're just really enthusiastic about their terrifying murder dolls. And then I tell my sister Willow about it, and Willow is, I feel like Willow has a very similar energy to your stepmom from what you're saying. So Willow's like, oh, get it for me. So I do. And then, like, a couple of her housemates came to visit and, like, took it home with them. They weren't happy about it. They did not want it in their car because it was cursed as shit, but Mom also didn't want it in the house. So there's nothing else I can do. And then a couple months later, one of her housemates sent me a photo. Apparently, she had gotten a doll, a creepy antique doll, and put it on the mantelpiece next to the book in a place of honor. And I was like, okay, cool. So this is how you die.
Well, see, the thing is like, my stepmom was given these dolls. So why couldn't she just get rid of them? I adore my stepmom, like, has had some really bad mental health issues in the past couple months. So she's now taken up making really tiny paintings.
Aw.
You can find her on Instagram at We Fine Art, like WEE. But like, she makes these like paintings on the caps of acorns. And they're all like pictures of our cats. So like, definitely go check her out.
Oh my god.
I'll put it in the Discord, but so like, this is the energy she has.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like Willow.
Yeah. Okay. So
yeah, very 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 similar. Like, every time I talk to her, we don't talk as often as we should because we're very similar, and like, we just never it never occurs to us to talk to anyone.
Yeah.
So every time we talk, she's just like, I've taken up a new hobby, and I'm just like, okay, that's a really fucking weird hobby, but you do you. And it's always something fucking weird. Taxidermy. She came, like, first semester of college, she came home like, this is how you make a skin study. I skinned a bird. And then Mom's, like, just leaning out of the kitchen to glare at her, and she just stops and is like, I'm ruining Christmas, I'm sorry.
That hurts. What? I mean, I get people have to be taxidermists, but like...
I mean, it wasn't alive. The bird wasn't alive, but...
I know, but like, just still the process of...
Yeah, in excruciating detail. I went to visit her at college once, and she pulled a bear's head out of a fridge.
What did your sister go to school for?
A few things. In the end, it was art.
Bear head art, same thing.
She wanted to study plastination, I think, was the reasoning there. And then that ended up not happening. But, I mean, she works for the Smithsonian now, so it all worked out in the end.
That's very neat. Good for you, Willow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking love her. But yeah.
No, she just sounds like a joy. I'm so...
No, she's a delight, but she's also an agent of chaos. And that's why I'm so used to chaos. Like, that's why I just roll with everything.
They're...
Because I've been doing it my whole life. Yeah.
You'd think I'd be better at rolling with chaos, considering the sheer amount of siblings I have. But I do not do well with chaos.
I mean, it's quality versus quantity. Like, Willow's chaos is contained to one person.
Mine is just 10 people of...
I have Carrie. That's enough. That's enough chaos.
Yeah.
I always forget that, like, your dad also lives there, but he doesn't.
Yes, he does.
He doesn't exist in, like, my mental image of your house. I just imagine you and Carrie just, like, in chaos.
Charlie, I thought you were created specifically to make a journey to the underworld to revive the goddess Inanna, since you can't die.
Me. I can't die, and I can tell you the future.
Yeah.
Didn't you know?
Who would have thought? Okay. I guess I should...
Who besides Charlie would have thought?
I mean, only I would know, because I can tell the future.
Yeah,
that's true.
So I knew this was going to happen.
I was going to say, you knew we were going to finally discover your secret.
Yeah.
This is the day.
Did you have it, like, written in your calendar?
Yeah, I did, actually.
Everyone finds out.
This is the story of how I died.
Psych! I can't die. I'm never gonna die.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As I wear my Rapunzel dress. Yeah, I guess we should wrap up so people can enjoy the rest of their evening, and by enjoy, I'm gonna go to bed.
Yeah,
because that's the joy of work.
It's too hot to do anything else. I don't like
I live
it.
on the 6th floor of our building.
Ew.
So, on the plus side, we didn't turn our heat on all winter. Like, it was consistently 70 in here without our heater on. But now we have to have, like, the air is basically running all the time, or else we're gonna die.
I'm being stubborn about turning the air on, but I might have to tonight.
You really should.
I probably should. I live in Virginia.
Yeah. If I'm struggling in like, north of you...
Yeah.
I'm always cold.
I am always hot. Like, consistently.
Yes, you are, in fact.
But, like I will walk in the room and tell Joe I'm sweating. He's like, and that's different from when? And I'm like, but my boobs! And he's like, once again, that's different from when? I guess we shall end this episode.
Yeah, well, thank you guys so much for giving me an excuse to do supplementary research on gay-ass myths and then info dump to you. This is the most fun I've had in weeks.
Yeah, honestly, if you ever want to info dump to us just in private, we are people who enjoy info dumps.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I mean, I've got a few. I don't have many subjects that I hyper focus on, but this is one of them. Like this in geology. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So where can the people find you on the places?
If you are not completely sick of my voice by now, congratulations, first of all, for having infinite patience. And you can find a lot more of me on the restricted section. It's a Harry Potter read-along. It's very, very vulgar, I'm warning you now. We just finished up Prisoner of Azkaban. We're going to be on hiatus for most of the summer. And then we're coming back hot with Goblet of Fire. And we're going to have a couple of bonus episodes in between that are going to be a lot of fun. I'm also on the Movie Night Crew podcast. It's just my idiot friends and I, we watch a movie every week and then we talk about it. And honestly, give it a lot more actual criticism than a lot of these movies deserve.
Looking at you, Brooke.
I mean... but we have a lot of fun with that. It's a lot more freeform. And if you must, you can follow me on Twitter at @TheWritToWit.
Hey, you remember
I'm on
Twitter.
there every once in a while. I remembered Twitter exists!
I always enjoy the end of Restricted Section when Christina's like, now plug your Twitter.
Yeah, it's the best
like,
part.
But I don't want to.
I hate it!
It's okay. Christina found out today that she wasn't following me on Twitter.
It was so funny.
She was like so despondent about it, and I was just like, that's fine. I just retweet the pod because I'm the one who puts most of the pod stuff up. So I just retweet it from my other account because I'm like, I already wrote something. Why do I need to write it again?
It's a matter of principle for her.
It was such a Hufflepuff moment. It was adorable. She was just like,
oh no!
I'm such a failure as a friend and a pod daddy. I was like, I'm not offended at all. So yeah, do go, and of course you can follow the Restricted Section and the Movie Night Crew on Twitter and Instagram, and check all of our shows out at themovienightcrew.com? Question mark?
It's in the show notes.
Yeah, it's in the show notes.
Yeah.
I honestly, is it...
Wait,
I think it's com.
I have a tab
I don't
of
think
this
we're an
open.
org.
Yeah.
MovieNightCrew.gov.
Yes!
Yeah, Movie Night...
.edu.
MovieNightCrewNetwork.com.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
There we
the...
go.
That's
Great,
the
we
full
knew that.
thing. Yep.
We knew that off the top of our heads.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah, so, and you'll be seeing all the new shows popping up on there with some cool bios, some more headshots that are just pictures that Charlie and Zach have drawn because some of us don't like our faces to be online.
That's fair.
Yeah, so that is it.
I'm a cosplayer, and I don't like showing my face online. How does that work? I don't know. I don't know.
My kids are my students are aware that I don't exist online because they are never going to be able to find me because my first name is associated with my Instagram and Twitter, and obviously I don't use my last name at all on anything, and my Facebook doesn't have my last name on it either. It uses my middle name. So
Like
I basically told them, I was like, if you find me once you graduate, good on you. But good luck.
You're like
Good
a
luck.
ghost.
Good luck trying to spell my middle name.
Congratulations.
So, yeah, I guess if they find me at that point,
You've caught the
congratulations.
elusive Taylor.
I guess you deserve to follow me on Instagram, but
Confirmed. Taylor is a legendary Pokemon. Confirmed.
nobody knows where I'm at.
Taylor's a legendary Pokemon, and Charlie can never die.
And that's the podcast. Taylor, I think it's time for you to get out of your fucking closet. Just come out of that closet.
Come
please.
out of the closet, Taylor. It's the queer episode. Come out of the closet.
As you heard at the top of the show, Fandoms Gone Wrong is joining the network. That is some extra Charlie every other week on the network. We're also super excited to welcome Carrie on board. Here's a trailer for this fandom-filled show.
Hello, you awesome nerds out there. Yes, you. Have I got the podcast for you?
We've got pop culture, swearing, and all the immature jokes you could ask for.
We'll take you on a journey through TV shows, movies, books, and maybe a video game someday.
And we'll tell you how they all went wrong.
I'm Charlie,
And I'm Carrie.
and this is Fandoms Gone Wrong.
New episodes every other Wednesday wherever you get your podcasts.
You can follow the podcast socials at Of the Eldest Gods Pod on Instagram and at Of the Eldest Gods on Twitter. You can send an iris message to us through oftheeldestgodspod@gmail.com. You can follow me, Taylor, at Taylor from Cabin 6 on Instagram, and Historical Femme, spelled Femme, on Twitter. Catch me on episodes of the Restricted Section, Hell from Elsewhere, and True Stories of a Tryhard.
You can follow me, Charlie, at GreenPixie12 on most platforms, mainly Instagram and Tumblr. But on Twitter, I'm at GreenPixie123, which I'm not salty about. No, not at all. I also have an art Instagram that I sometimes use at GreenPixieDraws. I sometimes do the YouTube thing on my channel, Charlie Mack. That's MACK.
Our music was written by Nora Strauss-Riggs and recorded and edited by Ian Emmerich. You can find Nora at Kane_I, that's I as in the body part, on Instagram and Twitter. Feel free to message her about making music for your project or editing your pod. She's the host of Siblings and Fandoms, where Nora and her sister Maddie talk about fandoms they're part of, ones they're not, and everything in between. She is also the host of Modern Musical Origin, which is an informative show delving into the history of different instruments and styles of music. You can find both of those pods on all the major podcasting apps. We are proud to be a part of the Movie Night Crew Network, which features the Restricted Section, a chapter-by-chapter Harry Potter pod with lots of spoilers all the time, and the Movie Night Crew. Join some friends as they react to some terrible, some meh, and some really great movies. My Cabbages, an Avatar podcast that follows the true hero of the Avatar The Last Airbender series, the Cabbage Cart Guy, and Content and Capable, where we follow Sam as he tries to figure out what it truly means to adult. Of the Eldest Gods is based on the series by Rick Riordan. Right now, we are discussing Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Remember to follow us on your favorite podcatcher and meet us back here every Thursday.